What's going on, guys? PFL 2021, number 9, and how could we miss up on the Greece opportunity with a PFL card? So, of course, got to get a preview out, and of course, we've got another UFC on the Saturday, so feel free to mix and match this PFL card. Not so worried about getting it out super early in the week, because normally these lines are just going to blow up. Happens on Bellator cards, too. You want to get it in as early as possible, but this is actually kind of an evenly matched card. None of these lines look like they were going to balloon up all that much. So at least we got to wait. We got to see weigh-ins. We got to see what the guys look like and then make the finalized prediction. So let's jump into things right off the bat. We got Jacob Kilburn, Brendan Jenkins. Kilburn currently an underdog, about plus 115. Come back on Jenkins, about minus 135. I think I'm going to start off with an underdog shot right off the bat. No disrespect to Brendan Jenkins, but he's been fighting for a long time, and it's just been mid-level the entire way through. He is training in Las Vegas at Syndicate MMA. That's all good stuff. You know, he's got good training partners. Ray Seppo is the president of the company. Like, it's good to have that connection. Sure, the Vegas fighters typically do good on PFL cards. However, in his case, again, he started fighting pro in 2013, and his wins, mid-level competition. His losses, again, middling level competition. The likes of Nick Compton, Austin Tweedy, Carson Frey, Damian Hill, Jeff Patterson. Robert Watley ended up going to some bigger and better things. But the rest of those guys, again, it's all just regional level stuff. So Jenkins not making a ton of improvements. I'm sure once he moves down to Vegas, a little bit better, but all the same, the wins, Jordan Hinman, Aaron Mitchell, the losses, Mike Breeden, guys that you've not heard of, guys that you're not familiar with. They didn't go to Bellator. They didn't go to the UFC. They didn't go to Contender Series. It is a fairly low level of opposition. So, I mean, that's kind of the level that he's working at. All I'm saying here on a fade for Jenkins is this is going to be a close fight. It's likely going the distance. It's likely going to be close. And what you see from him just isn't all that impressive. He seems to be more of a grappler, if anything. But I'm just not super impressed with what I've seen from him. With Jacob Kilburn, he's basically the same thing, right? He's had a terrible run to his career so far, but there's noticeable improvements that you're seeing from him to fight to fight. Now, with Jenkins, he's 29 years old. He spent his entire career on the regional scene. He doesn't look to be making any vast improvements. So we know what we're getting out of him. It's almost like the devil you know and the devil you don't know. In this case, Jacob Kilburn, equally as bad, but there are improvements, right? So since he turns pro, he's got a clear problem with grappling. Grappling is his issue. You need to take this guy down. You can out-grapple him. You can submit him. All of his losses, he's giving up rear naked chokes. He's giving up Darce chokes. He's getting caught in triangle chokes. He gives up the neck. He's got a tendency to do that. But as far as stand-up goes, dude has a cast iron chin and a willingness to engage. He will come forward. He will let his hands go. It's not the prettiest of technique, but he's most definitely a willing competitor. 2 wins over Elvin Brito, who's currently, mixing it up in the bare knuckle boxing world and having a lot of success, actually. Those are quite solid. That's what gets him on the Contender Series, where he loses to Bobby Moffett. Now, Bobby Moffett went on to fight in the UFC. Bobby Moffett also fighting on this PFL card and kind of, a higher level of opposition than one Jacob Kilburn. The fact that you can fight guys like that, solid. Because the flip side to Jenkins is he has no real notable losses. And he has no notable wins. He's fought in that same middling level. At least with Kilburn, 2 wins over Elvin Brito, a loss to Bobby Moffett. That's all experience. Furthermore, he knocks out Davidson Ribeiro. That's a big win. He loses to Billy Q in the UFC. The Austin Lingo fight loses in the UFC. Now, 1, we just saw how good Austin Lingo looked last weekend. But 2, Kilburn looked career best in that fight. Loses the first 2 rounds. In fact, gets bopped up. But you see the cast iron chin play in because everything Lingo hits him with, the kid comes back every time, and he keeps putting pressure. And in fact, I thought the 3rd round in the fight was his best round. Lingo, a guy with great cardio. If you want to talk about what 3rd rounds in Austin Lingo, that's what sealed the deal for him last weekend. His ability to persevere, come through, have good cardio, and fight on. But Kilburn was the one doing that in the fight with Lingo. So good stuff to see. Now, what was the turning point for him? He's still losing. 26 years old, first of all. So we can expect improvements out of him, right? Second of all, that fight with Lingo was the first time he left the confines of a small gym and he went to American Top Team. Now, the whole narrative there was American Top Team just doesn't accept anybody. So they saw something that they liked in the kid. And what I saw from the Lingo fight was the work with ATT was working. He was getting better. He wasn't Austin Lingo's level. He's probably still not UFC level, but he's only 26 years old and he is making improvements. Solid stuff. UFC does release him, but he doesn't leave ATT. He stays there. And so now he's had another full camp with them. I do expect him to get marginally better. He was supposed to fight Ali Al-Casey on the last Titan FC show, ended up being a title fight. Al-Casey did win. But he yanks himself from that fight knowing that there's a PFL opportunity. So I would say he already had a full camp for Al-Casey, a wrestler, someone who's going to probably attempt to take him down. And going from that, you now jump into another shorter camp, getting ready for Brandon Jenkins. It's like he should be in good shape. I know he's got good cardio. I know he's got a great chin. He's just got to keep this fight standing and batter Jenkins around. And Jenkins has great training partners, but as far as his MMA career goes, he's 14-7 and just hasn't really jumped over that barrier. So the fact that he's the favorite, I don't agree with that. It's probably closer to a 50-50 fight. But if you're going to give me dog money on Jacob Kilburn and the assumption that he did make improvements, I'm going to go with that. I do assume he's made more improvements. And for dog money, I'm willing to test that theory. Alejandro Flores versus Carl Deaton, the third. Alejandro Flores is currently a -335. Comeback on Deaton, about +270. I totally do see it. Flores could shit in the apple pie. He could be that guy, but he's got him severely outgunned here. First and foremost, he's 19-3. That's definitely a pretty looking record, but he fought some decent guys on the Mexican regional scene before coming over and fighting largely for Combate Americas. If you look at his losses, his first pro loss, this Alejandro Soriano Rodriguez, dude's 25-12. That's a tremendous amount of experience to have 37 fights fighting a dude who's 8-0. And he gets caught in a third-round guillotine choke. So he looked decent the first little bit. Eventually, he tires out. Eventually, he gives up his neck. Third-round, that's a great learning experience, right? He bounces back from that. Again, he's a star for the Combate Americas organization. Second loss of his pro career, spinning back elbow. Damn, shit could happen to anybody. But it's actually in the finals of a one-night tournament, the Copa Combate 2018 tournament. So he wins his first the first two fights, and then gets caught with a spinning back elbow in the finals. Like, shit happens. And then lastly, the third loss is on Contender Series against Rafael Alves. And man, he starts off pretty good. The guy's got excellent footwork. He moves extremely well. He's got pretty fast hands. I'd like to see a little more output out of him. And in the case of the Alves fight, he looked super hesitant to overextend on anything because Alves is just marching him back the entire time. He fought a good first round. He even got a takedown at the end of the first round. And then in the second round, yeah, much of the same. Like, he's getting backed up. He's starting to get a little more tired, but he's looking pretty good. His hands are getting off. He's got a nasty little inside leg kick, very, very fast, and he will work those legs, but eventually Alves is able to snack him up. It looks like he, again, ducks under for a potential takedown attempt or at least a clinch up. Alves just jumps right up on the neck. Now, if you know Alves, dude can't even make 45 anymore. Like, he's a gigantic lightweight. So, yeah, again, I'm not holding any of these losses against him. He's been knocked out once. He's been submitted twice. So his three losses he got finished all three times. But I can give him a pass on those. Third round guillotine choke. It's a super seasoned vet early on. Another guillotine choke against a super seasoned vet later on. But dude was legit, Titan FC champion. And then you got caught by a spinning back elbow in the finals of a one-night tournament. Again, I'm going to give him a pass on all that. He rebounds with a couple of wins, so we know he's back in the win column at least. I didn't think he looked great against Andy Perez. Certainly did look in the first round. Second and third, he kind of does tire. His takedown defense, although it looks good against Perez's shots are coming from a mile out. So a better wrestler is going to take him down, and a good grinder type fighter is going to be able to give him that grind. Deaton just doesn't represent any of those things. Now, Tapology might tell you he's at American Top Team. They might tell you he's fighting out of Las Vegas, but I'm pretty sure he's back in Michigan. He holds a professional boxing record of 1 win, 3 losses. All 4 of those fights have gone to decision. And again, in his MMA career, when he steps up against a higher level of competition, he almost always falters. If you look at, say, his last 3 losses, right? They have the same thing in common. They all have grappling advantages over him. Abel Cullum, badass back in the day, but at 135 pounds, submits him with a rear naked choke. Vince Murdoch, you just seen on The Ultimate Fighter, bit of a wrestler out of Michigan, is able to just take him down and grind him. And Jonas Flock, Jonas Flock we've just seen on the last Bellator card, and woof, did not look good in the slightest bit. Was it not PFL card? Jonas Flock. It didn't look good at all. When you look at that fight, Deaton striking, there's a lot of PFL card. Deaton striking looks super sloppy in that fight. He does get tired. He is getting taken down, so maybe that's why he's so tired come the second and third round. He routinely kind of looks up at the clock a lot, so it's just not great body language. And I don't know, man. It's just like it wasn't a good performance at all. His striking never got going. His takedown defense never got going. His cardio never got going. It was overall a bad performance. That fight is 2 years ago. Since then, he's only competed once, and it was a pro boxing match, which he lost by unanimous decision. So you got a Deaton coming back in, first MMA fight, 2 years. Didn't look good the last time out. Got pretty much beat in every one area of MMA against a lower echelon guy. Again, wins over pretty much non-notable guys. Last win is over a 5-26 opponent, in April of 2019. So he's operating at a fairly low level. He just lost a boxing match, and now he's going to jump back into MMA against Flores. Like, Flores is going to have the boxing advantage. He should be able to have good enough takedown defense to stuff whatever Deaton may throw at him. And beyond that, if Flores' cardio is a worry to us, only 2 worries I got with Flores, takedown defense and cardio. Well, Deaton he doesn't have the cardio or the takedown offense to pose those problems. So yeah, minus 335 is a big price tag. Don't get me wrong, but the kid's not like he's only got a handful of fights. He's 19-3. He's fought many of times. He's fought better guys than this. And even though this does represent bright lights, he's already fought for Contender Series. He's fought in a couple big Camozzi cards. Like I know people probably aren't familiar with Camozzi Americas, but as far as the Latin American market goes, they got it cornered. So anyways, I would agree with the assessment of Flores. And whereas we're going to use him on parlays, of course, I don't think we'll put him all the way at the top just because that certain little uncertainty, but he's probably going to be near-ish the top because he should get the victory. Jason Knight versus Bobby Moffett, currently lying on that fight, is Bobby Moffett minus 154. Come back on Jason Knight about plus 130. Again, I'm going to agree with it. Jason Knight's always a live underdog. Like, you got to give him that. The guy's got solid striking, and that he was fighting bare knuckle boxing and just chucks caution to the wind. Is it the most tactical? Maybe not. But when a guy just keeps pressuring you and just keeps letting his hands go and is in your face, it's a problem. So how do you counteract that? You take him down, right? That's the problem with Jason Knight. Dude can do it all. He's good off his back. He's got a nasty triangle choke. He throws up submission attempts. Like, you don't really want to go in that area with him as well. But Jason Knight, they figured him out. Like, there was a time where all that stuff stood true. If you stand with him, he's going to bop you up. If you take him down, he's going to submit you. But at some point, it's like his opposition got better and their grappling is better. And now that triangle choke doesn't quite work off his back. And he's not scrambling to get back up. It's not like he's got super strong hips. He's good at throwing up rubber guard. He's good at throwing up, trying to isolate an arm and maybe throw up an arm bar. Like, he's flexible, but he's not trying to scramble and get back up. So guys with heavy hips, better wrestlers, they just take him down and they lay and pray him. They don't even have to lay and pray. Sorry. They could strike him. They could ground and pound him. They could try to advance position, but they could just lay and pray. You could just tuck your head, stay on top of this guy. And the problem with grapplers who are good with submissions off their back is a lot of the time they'll spend too much time attempting submissions off their back. And in the eyes of the judges, you spend 4 minutes on your back, you're probably not going to win the round. So that's kind of my issue. He was like a rocket getting fired straight into the UFC, just blows up. He loses to Kawajiri in his debut, but hell of a debut. I mean, Kawajiri's the man, but beats Jim Ayler's current bare knuckle boxing champ, beats Dan Hooker, current UFC star, beats Bruce Leroy, still cutting it in the UFC, holding down a job, beats Chaz Kelly and beats up Chaz Kelly. Like, all solid stuff. But then, like I said, the opposition got better and they figured him out. How this fight's going to play out, more notably, again, like the Makwan Amirkhani fight, Jordan Rinaldi fight, you can see where he gets taken down, he can get controlled. And Bobby Moffett's going to likely look to take him down to control. As far as the striking goes, he's got this badass striking from the bare knuckle boxing days. Like, nah, not so much. His last fight was against Charles Crazy Horse Bennett, and it was it's bare knuckle MMA. So it's MMA just with no gloves on. He's headlining. It's in his own home state. He's taking on Charles Crazy Horse Bennett, who's on like an 11-fight winning streak. Hasn't won a fight in a very long time. And Bennett looked really good in the first minute and a half, almost 2 minutes against Jason Knight. Drops him, stuffs the first takedown, just dancing right around him. Knight looks flat. And then Charles Bennett, as he typically does, makes a bonehead decision, puts himself in a bad spot, allows Jason Knight to just snack up on the back. And as soon as he takes the back, he gets the rear naked choke. That's expected. Sure. But he didn't look good early. So what about the MMA fight before that? Okay, well, he fought Cliff Wright. He was 12-14. He submitted him in the second round, but again, he didn't look all that good. Now, here's the interesting thing about Jason Knight. He got released from the UFC in 2018 after losing to Jordan Rinaldi. Again, a low-level loss to a guy no longer with the promotion. Not great stuff, but that's 2018. He loses. He could theoretically grow and get better. The fight with Cliff Wright, the 12-14 opponent, that's the only official professional MMA fight he's had since 2018. He's just had the one MMA fight. He fought bare knuckle boxing. He beat Artem Lobov. He lost to Artem Lobov. He beat a couple lower level guys. He beat Crazy Horse. And actually, in between, he opened up his own gym in Mississippi. So now he's a gym owner. He's a business owner. Fighting's kind of a side thing. BKB's willing to offer me the right price tag. I'll jump into it. If, a Game Bred Fighting Championships, they offered him a pretty good price tag to fight a guy like Crazy Horse Bennett in his own home state, he's willing to flatter the offer. With PFL, it's like, geez, these guys will put me in the tournament next year, and I can fight for $1 million. So that's incentivizing you to jump back into MMA. I just don't know that MMA is his top priority anymore, as much as making money and running a business is. And so Bobby Moffett missed weight. Didn't look bad at the scales necessarily. Comes in at 148 and a quarter pound, I believe. Again, didn't look bad on the scales. It almost looked like he just quit cutting weight before the weight cut started getting really grueling. And as such, is going to forfeit 20% to Jason Knight. Jason Knight, as game as they come, is still going to take the fight. And who does that favor? Probably Bobby Moffett. Bobby Moffett's probably going to try to take this fight to the ground, at the very least grind him up against the cage. And I think he's going to have a slight strength advantage. He's going to have a couple pound weight advantage. Not that that really matters, but not having the grueling weight cut should help Bobby Moffett. And as far as the striking goes, like, again, he's not a fish out of water. His last fight against Bubba Jenkins, he looked legit, right? I mean, loses the first round pretty handedly. Second round works his way back into it, but still does lose. And then the third round, he's got Jenkins reeling, man. He's all over him. And that's a testament to Bobby Moffett's cardio and his durability. The fight prior, UFC, his last fight in the UFC against Enrique Barzola, drops a split decision. Barzola as strong as they come. Fight before that, Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell is essentially Jason Knight 2.0, right? More advanced version, pretty much in every aspect. Maybe not striking, but it'll get there. All the same, it's like he lost a decision, which is impressive against a guy like Bryce Mitchell. So Bobby Moffett's been knocked out one time in his career, never been submitted. And so taking off Jason Knight's weapons off the table, his ability to catch a guy in a submission off his back, and his ability to walk a guy down and knock him out, Bobby Moffett just seems too durable. And as such, this thing's going to go in some later rounds, and Moffett should be able to complete those takedowns, get it going for himself. So listen, I would never discount Jason Knight as a plus money underdog. The guy will fight for your dollar. And if you're picking him here, don't feel bad about it whatsoever. But there's a few dogs I like better on the card. He just doesn't happen to be the one. So I'm going to go with Bobby Moffett and that minus 155. And it's if you can find a prop on it, it's likely going to be by decision. Anthony Dizy versus Jesse Stirn. The line on this one is Anthony Dizy minus 350, Jesse Stirn plus 280. Yeah, again, I wish I could have a better price tag on this one, but I totally do agree. Anthony Dizy, even though he's from France, this guy is actually training at a Bulgarian top team with some badass Bulgarian wrestlers, and he's picked up the art of wrestling quite well himself. He loves just getting in there, taking guys down, grinding on them. He uses it to great effect. If you've got some great submission game, maybe you catch him. If you've got some great knockout game, maybe you catch him. But beyond that, you better pack a lunchbox because he's just going to keep getting on you and trying to grind you down to oblivion. He's on a pretty good run here, considering he's won 6 of his last 8. Got knocked out by Tim Wilde, one of those, and then loses his PFL debut against Chris Wade by unanimous decision. So we'll just kind of focus on those regional scene runs. He takes these guys down. He grinds them. He's not even fighting just bums either. He fights Martin Stapleton, Bellator veteran, Ultimate Fighter veteran, was 18-4 at the time. He fought Lawrence Patrick, was undefeated 5-0. Colin Fletcher, Ultimate Fighter and UFC veteran, 15-8. But I mean, he was a veteran, right? Abubakar Mestavayev was 7-0. This Zelabag Omarov, 10-3. So he's not fighting nobodies. He's fighting some tough guys. He's taking them down and he's grinding them. So he makes his PFL debut against Chris Wade. He would have been a colossal underdog. He's plus 275 underdog against Chris Wade. Of course, he's going to lose to Chris Wade. We know Wade, UFC veteran, right? Guys wrestled collegiately, trains at a great gym, always comes in shape, big-time experience, and cast iron durability. Dizy looked good, man. First round, Dizy all day. Takes him down twice, controls him largely. Definitely scored the first round for Anthony. Second round, like, he's not shooting as many takedowns as we'd like, and the fight is close standing. He's probably getting outstruck by Chris Wade, but then he mixes in that takedown. He does get the fight to the ground. He controls it up against the cage. You can make an argument that he wins that second round, but again, you could make an argument that Chris Wade wins the second round. In the third round, I would score it for Chris Wade, but again, it's a unanimous decision loss, but he did not look bad whatsoever. He had that ability to get in there and grind. With Jesse Stirn, Jesse Stern's own takedown offense seems like his only saving grace. The rest of the skills just don't seem to be there. I mean, his submission defense is not very good. He's been officially submitted in all but one of his pro losses. This Georgi Kudishvili caught him in a rear naked choke. Terry Bartholomew caught him in a rear naked choke. Scott Heckman grounded him. Pat Sabatini took him in an armbar. And Shaman Moraes his last time out with a Kimura. The Shaman one, even more worrisome because the 10-second clapper sounds. He's on top and Shaman just grabs his arm and Kimura's him within the span of the 10 seconds. Crazy shit. And in that fight, his striking looked non-existent against Shaman Moraes. His grappling obviously looked, he did score 3 takedowns, but did nothing with the 3 takedowns. And even then, the 3 takedowns, it largely looked like Moraes was just flopping over. Like, I'll give him credit. He was taking down a credible opponent, but it wasn't all that pretty. And when he would get on top, he did almost nothing with it. I think you'd be able to shoot takedowns on him and take him down. If this fight stays standing, I saw almost nothing out of his striking. A whole lot of bounce. Guy twitches, guy feints, bounce, twitches, feints, doesn't throw. It smiles, you punch him in the face, he smiles at you. He got dropped by Shaman Moraes hard in that first round. And, he's on his back and he's smiling at him, but then he gets back up and he proceeds to get a takedown. So I'll give him that. It's just he's not taking down Dizy. and I didn't see anything other than a saving grace from him. So more often than not, I think Anthony's the one going out there using his own wrestling, getting this fight to the ground, grinding him up against the cage, just demoralizing him all around. And then what? The last thing, it's just like, well, what about puncher's chance, right? Everybody's got a puncher's chance. And in Jesse Stern's case, he doesn't have a puncher's chance. He's effectively got 1 win. Of his 11 wins, he's only knocked out 1 guy. He's got 5 submissions and 1 knockout. He's not submitting Anthony Dizy. And as far as catching him goes, that 1 win by knockout was his pro debut in 2015. So he hasn't knocked out anybody in 6 years and only shows 1 knockout. The striking's not there. It's non-existent. The wrestling offense, if you're not going to do anything with it, it's going to still be difficult to win fights, and taking on a better wrestler just not playing out in his favor. So again, I know it's $350 for the Frenchman, and rather get a much better price on that, but it's because people are on the same page. They've watched the tape, they figured it out, they understand, and I'm going to agree with that assessment. Chris Camozzi versus Corey Hendricks. Current line on this one would be the man from Colorado, Chris Camozzi, is a -116. The man from Vegas, Corey Hendricks, is you can get him at -105. You can get him at even money, depending on what your book is. And again, I do agree. This is a pretty close fight. I wanted to go Corey Hendricks. I thought we'd get a dog price out of him. And the reason I was thinking of maybe going with him is that he is the natural 205-er. His entire professional career has been fought at 205 pounds. He fought a catchweight in Russia one time at 209. Not that that means anything, but he's a 205-er. As an amateur, he fought 3 times, twice at 205. Lowest he's ever fought, the other fight, was a 195. He's a big enough guy, right? He's not a huge 205er, but I mean, he would not make middleweight. Whereas Chris Camozzi, to me, just screams middleweight. I mean, he's big now. He's definitely put some muscle on now. But he fought in the UFC at middleweight. He was a tall guy, but didn't seem like he was the biggest guy. And at 205, I just think that there's going to be opportunities for guys to take him down and grind him. He's been spending a lot of time working on his kickboxing. And for a guy that trains at altitude in Colorado, his cardio is just not great, but he's a gamer, and he's really shown that in this PFL tournament. It's like you have to kill him for him to go away, and he's making it increasingly difficult to kill him. You guys are having success in him. Guys are rocking him. Guys are wobbling him. Guys are winning the first round. But beyond that, if you do not finish him, he keeps coming back. The Emiliano Sordi fight, I mean, hell, very interesting, because in the Sordi fight, Sordi's like, he's the $1 million man. He won the last tournament. He's the tournament champion. He looks solid. In the first round, he beats Camozzi left and right. In the second round, it's like, oh man, Camozzi's coming back on. In the third round, Camozzi's coming on. It's a good enough performance out of Chris Camozzi. He ends up losing the unanimous decision, but shit, you just took the tournament favorite into some greasy deep waters. Impressive enough. The Cesar Ferreira fight's the same shit. Like, think about it. Again, him and Sordi, he's a plus 260 underdog. He does lose, but look better than 260. And then the Cesar Ferreira fight, he's a plus 290 underdog. And so again, he does pretty much the same thing as the Sordi fight. He loses the first round, he gets taken down, but he survives. In the second round, ooh, Ferreira's tired. In the second round, Camozzi 10-8s Cesar Ferreira. He beats the shit out of him, pillar to post. Only one judge gave it a 10-8. 29-27 ended up being that guy's score. The other two went 29-28, 2 rounds to 1. And that's because the third Camozzi wins as well. But I had it as a 10-8 round, and I picked Ferreira that night. Like, he absolutely beat the crap out of him. And again, it's this perseverance. So cardio looked a little bit better there. I know I said he's not really a 205er, but he fought Tony Lopez at heavyweight. So maybe he has filled out the frame. If the cardio's there, he's filled out. He's a bigger guy. He's not just going to get taken down and grinded. He's got that striking. He's got that ability to lose a first round, persevere, and keep coming at you. Yeah, you know what? What's there to dislike in him? With Hendricks, meanwhile, it's like he got really lucky against Martin Hamlet Nielsen his last time out. He got dominated in the first round. He had probably a 10-8 first round, to be honest with you. The second round, he had a better second round, but most definitely lost. He's getting taken down. He's getting controlled. He can't do anything for the most part. The ground and pound starting to slow down. And in the third round, he's losing. And then MMA's a bitch. He takes his back. He gets a great position, and he ends up choking him out. And by the way, he almost did the same thing against Nasruddinov in Russia just last year. He got dominated in the first round, taken down, neutralized. Second round, dominated, taken down, neutralized. Third round, there's like 2 minutes left. He ends up on those Russians' back, fishing for the rear naked choke. Doesn't get it there, does get it here. But it's like you can never count him out. Like, he's that comeback kind of guy. But I struggle to find what I really like about his game. As far as his striking goes, like, it's a little bit robotic. It's a little bit one shot at a time. It's a little bit from too far out. He doesn't seem like he's super comfortable in those striking exchanges. He can strike to some degree of success with Chris Camozzi. But over the course of 15, Camozzi's output, superior technique will eventually win out, will eventually take over. So now it's up to him to go after Chris Camozzi's second biggest, or his real biggest weakness, that takedown defense. Take this guy down and grind him. And in the case of Hendricks, it's like the offensive wrestling is decent, but it's not great. He might be able to take down Camozzi. And if he does, he stays on top, lays in praise for at least 2 of the 3 rounds. As far as the third round goes, Carter's probably comparable between these two guys. I don't see any real advantage either side. He could definitely squeak this thing out and win a decision. That's why I mentioned if it was going to be a dog money on Hendricks, you get decent dog money on him, I would consider it. Camozzi's looked better so far, but yeah, they've got this thing lined near even, and now it's like, what do you like? Do you like the superior striking and output from Chris Camozzi, or do you like the potential takedown from Hendricks? If I knew for sure he had a massive wrestling advantage and would get the fight to the ground, I would go with the wrestling advantage over the striking advantage. But again, the Nasruddin fight, mind you, scary Russian, he almost like pulls Nasruddin on top of him every time. And his wrestling in that fight looked abysmal, very, very bad. It looked good against Luke Barnett, but Luke Barnett's a tall, skinny guy with a high center of gravity. The wrestling would work better against a guy like that than it would against a short, stockier opponent. And that's what you're going to have in Chris Camozzi. He's not short by no means, but he's filled out. He's not tall and lanky. He's like got some decent muscle on that frame. Look good at weigh-ins. It's a pick 'em, right? So you got to pick one side of the coin. I'm going to go with Chris Camozzi. Not the most faith, because I do recognize a path of victory there for Hendricks. But again, that's why it's an even money fight. Moraes versus Stojadinovic. I think the real angle here, first of all, we'll talk about the line, which is minus 180 for Moraes, plus 150 for Lazar. I think the real angle here is like the under 2.5 fight don't go the distance. Yeah, so the under 2.5 is minus 150. I'm seeing you can get it on 5 dimes for minus 130 as well. So that would be a decent price. The fight doesn't go to decision, minus 175. So that one kind of makes a little more sense. Honestly, I think this is going to be a banger between two guys that have good striking and questionable chins. I mean, how it doesn't end up knockout would be a 15-minute absolute war between both guys. And even though it's possible, with guys that are a tad bit chinny, not as possible. So we'll start with Moraes because he's the favorite. I think I'm going to go with the underdog in this play, but maybe we can figure it out together. Shaman looked good. Not great, but good. World Series of Fighting veteran. He fought Marlon Moraes for the belt. He makes his UFC debut. He actually beat Luis Palomino, who's the bare-knuckle boxing GOAT right now. Robbie Peralta was a UFC veteran. Makes that debut against Magomed Sharipov, gets submitted, but all the same, it's Magomed Sharipov. High-level shit. He's operating at high level. Beats Matt Sales, Dominic Cruz's good buddy, training partner, and then the fight with Julio Arce. 2 knockdowns over Julio Arce. A credible guy. Split decision win. You see Arce in the UFC now, still currently, and doing good still currently. Shaman had something there. He's still young. He's still only 30, and at the time then, he was only about 27. It's like he's legit. Then it starts off with the Sordi fight where he gets knocked down. He gets knocked down hard. First time he'd been knocked down in the UFC. Never been knocked out in his career to this point. Does lose a decision, but you could see he got noticeably rocked in that fight. The very next fight against Andre Fili, he gets knocked out in the first round, right? Left hook, he floors it, ground and pound finishes him out. That's now officially the first time he's been knocked out. Dude had gone the distance with Marlon Moraes. Sorry, he got choked out by Marlon Moraes in the third round, but it gave a good account of himself in striking. Magomed Sharipov, excellent striker. He had to rely on submitting him in the third round as well. To see him get dropped by Youssef and then subsequently knocked out by Andre Fili does give you the sense that maybe his chin's starting to go. He's got a decent amount of experience. He's been in some wars. But you know what? Let's give him a pass. Sure. So now he's cut from the UFC. Despite just 2 losses, why would you cut this guy? He's still young, exciting fight style. It's almost as if they're recognizing writings on the wall. He's damaged goods. He fights Brendan Loughnane in his PFL debut. This fight's just in April of this year. And Brendan Loughnane going in, not really known for his power punching. Great striker, right? But, could hit you 100 times and not knock you out. And he just buzzsawed right through him. Short little shot from in tight. And he's just discombobulated. He's on rubber legs, and he's knocked out in 2 minutes and 5 seconds. So effectively, yeah, now we're worried. If we were worried in the UFC run, okay, but it's Sodiq Youssef's a badass and didn't knock him out, just knocked him down. Andre Fili, anybody can get caught. Now there's this sense of like, shit, he just got knocked out again in 2 minutes by a half-hearted shot. Not great. He books the fight with Jesse Stirn just 2 months later. Why would you fight 2 months after getting knocked out like that versus Brendan Loughnane? But it's a tournament, you want to get points. You want to get in there. You want to do the damn thing. So he does. He signs up. He gets in there with Jesse Stirn. And boom, we just talked about Jesse Stirn. He has no knockout wins. He has no punching power. That's quite literally 1 knockout win from 6 years ago. Pro debut, gets a putts. Perfect opponent for a guy that might be chinny, you know. And in the first round, he gets taken down 3 times and loses the first round. He did score a knockdown, so maybe that would persuade people to score the round for him. That's fair. I mean, to be honest with you, Jesse Stirn did nothing with the takedown, so maybe you could give that first round for Moraes. But shit, lost 4.5 minutes of the first round. Like that was disheartening. And the second round does get taken down. That's what leads to the Kimura. But he looked bad. He didn't look great, anyways. And this is against a non-puncher. So what he gets in Lazar now is a guy that's wild. He's a brawler, certainly. But the dude's willing to get in there and let his hands go. Now, the reason why this thing ain't going the distance is he's the same way. Like, he gets out there and he'll throw shots. His fight with Mike Richmond, LFA 2, so it's 2017. It's like he throws well over 150 strikes. He lands 100 significant strikes. He batters Mike Richmond, pillar to post, lands everything but the kitchen sink, doesn't put him down. But, I mean, beats him pillar to post. Very, very nice performance. And instantly Contender Series says, you know what? Why don't you come over to the UFC? Why don't you come over to Contender Series and see what you got? They give him Tan Lee. Tan Lee was on a tremendous run of knocking dudes out, and so he got caught by Tan Lee. His next fight against Irwin Rivera, who eventually would go to the UFC as well, he gets knocked out in the first round. So that's his problem. He's banger bust. Very similar to Marlon Moraes. He just got knocked out twice in his last 2 fights, Tan Lee, Irwin Rivera. And he gets in there and he lets his hands fly. He's a striker, and he's not the most defensively responsible guy. Like, he'll land 3 punches to get hit twice, and chin's always up there, hands virtually very low most of the time. Oh, it's tight, it's greasy. But one of these guys is getting knocked out. They're going to meet, they're going to throw down. One of them is getting knocked out. I just got a feeling that I don't want a minus 180 Shaman Moraes. Some books it's actually minus 190 here. I don't want a near 2-1 favorite in a fight that I think someone's getting knocked out in, and he could go out on his shield as well, right? You got 2 bangers going to meet, they're going to throw down. You can make the argument that one guy's fought in the better level of competition. It doesn't matter, though. It's a fist fight. And so really that under 2.5, minus 130, minus 150, that looks good to me. The under 1.5 plus 130, definitely I would definitely consider that as well. I mean, I got a few more hours before the fight starts, so we'll figure it out. But at plus money, I don't mind it. But certainly the under 2.5, I like a lot better. The fight doesn't go the distance, minus 175, sure. And then I see Stojadinovic is plus 500 by knockout. Like, if he does win, got a feeling it's going to be a knockout. And the flip side to that, if you were going to take Moraes, I suppose you would try to take him inside the distance. But yeah, at 2-1, that looks to me like the apple pie shitter of the week. And I'm looking to avoid the apple pie shitter of the week. 2 weeks ago, PFL, we went 10-0, hit the PRP, great times. Last week, we were on a hell of a good run. And then Dennis Goldstav shit in the apple pie. So if we could figure out who it's going to be this week and avoid it, that would be great. Emiliano Sordi versus we missed Cesar Ferreira versus Martin Hamlet Nielsen. Current line here, I know that Nielsen is the favorite, but by what margin? He is currently sitting at stupid best fight odds. He's currently a minus 160 favorite. Come back on Cesar Ferreira about plus 125, plus 130, depending on the book. Yeah, I agree with it. So Hamlet actually is a solid dude. I wanted to write down his credentials. He is a 7-time Norway national champion, a 15-time World Cup medalist. He won bronze at the European Championships and the World Championships in his junior year, and then he switches over to MMA. All Greco-Roman. The dude is built like a brick shithouse. He spent a little bit of time training in Las Vegas, but I mean, the guy takes you down, and it's just grind, grind, grind. We know that he's got the wrestling base, and the Greco-Roman base makes him extremely strong in the clinch. A lot of guys that have a freestyle base, you know, they've got excellent shots. They'll shoot from far out, single leg, double leg. You know, they'll chain wrestle. But these Greco-Roman guys, even if they don't take you down, they'll just get an underhook, maybe even double underhooks, and just grind you into oblivion. He's got the ability to do that. Where he lacks is that he's still green, and he exerts a lot of energy in there, and he's heavily muscled. He exerts a lot of energy in there. So if he doesn't finish you and you're able to take him into some deeper waters, he's going to leave himself vulnerable. First pro loss, Modestas Bukauskas in Cage Warriors. He gets knocked out in the 4th round. Same thing. He starts out pretty good. He looks actually pretty decent. The longer this thing goes, it just takes a lot of energy and a lot of oxygen to operate those muscles at that level and to be shooting takedowns and all that. For a 5-0 guy, he's just too inexperienced. It went to deeper waters. It was a championship fight, and he loses in the 4th round. Good learning experience. Fair, right? He makes his PFL debut. He beats Dan Spawn. He looked very good against Dan Spawn. Took him down in the 1st round, put himself in 0 harm's way, looked solid, easily wins the first round. Second round, easily takes him down, and then just moves right to an arm triangle. That's definitely a wrestler move. It's a power submission. They love it. He uses it to great effect. He gets the second round submission pretty early into the second round, and that moves him on to a fight with Corey Hendricks. Corey Hendricks' fight, he comes out balls to the walls, and that ends up being his downfall. He 10-8s Corey Hendricks in the first round. He mauls him. He takes him down and batters him. Oh, man, he beats the crap out of him. But Corey Hendricks survives. So now in the second round, he's tired, so he's like, you know what? Let's just get the takedown and conserve a little energy. So he does that. He gets the takedown. He conserves a little energy. But he's definitely tired by this point because he left it all in the first round searching the finish. When you get 8 points for a first round finish in the PFL tournament, you're incentivized. So this guy wants to be the number 1 seeded fighter so you can fight the number 4 seeded guy and have the easiest path, theoretical path, to the $1 million tournament. So that's what he's looking to do. He's looking to get another first round finish. He already banked, 6 points for the second round finish, but he gets a little bit greedy. He goes for the 8 points and blows his load. Now he's tired. Now he I thought he won the second round, but he's now very tired in the third. And in the third, he makes one mistake, gives up his back, gets caught in a rear naked choke. Dems to breaks. But I think to go back to the drawing board, he didn't take any real damage in that fight. He got tired, but he exerted a lot of energy. And so that's another learning experience. Go back to the drawing board and just work on your cardio. You still have the wrestling game. You still have that top-heavy power grappling game. That's all stuff that you're going to be able to bring into this fight. It's a quick enough turnaround. But again, no damage sustained. Learning experience. And now we in the playoffs. So now you don't have to go out there and try to knock this guy in the first round. Now you can take your time and fight your game and just win the fight. The only thing you need to do in this fight is just win. It doesn't matter about points. So I think he'll fight a smart game plan. He'll go out there. He'll try to take this fight to the ground early and then just neutralize him. So with Ferreira, it's like, okay, he's going to be fighting off of his back. He's a BJJ black belt. He's got some decent submissions. Can he snag him up a submission off his back? If he ends up on his back, like Corey Hendricks, can he get the rear naked choke himself? I just don't think so, man. Again, this is another middleweight. He campaigned largely in the UFC at 185 pounds. In fact, I don't know. He's completely jacked up, ripped. Like, don't get me wrong. He's a massive, massive dude. But I've always kind of thought he just didn't have the biggest frame. Has a ton of muscle on that frame, but I don't know. Not a big 205er, certainly. His run in the UFC was kind of not all that memorable. Like, his chin kind of went by the end. He was getting knocked out by smaller guys. He was getting knocked out fairly routinely. So he stopped striking altogether and would just go out and take guys down and use that BJJ black belt. On top, he's fine. On his back, he's not very good. And so the UFC cut him and lose to Ian Heinisch. He loses to Marvin Vettori. The Marvin Vettori fight in particular, Marvin Vettori was able to just take him down when he wanted to, easily neutralized him, won the fight by unanimous decision. UFC says thanks, but no thanks. They officially release him. PFL signs him. He takes on this Nick Roerick. Now, he's got the easiest first-round fight. This should be theoretically a walk in the park, although MMA very rarely ever is. But he's a 2-1 favorite, and he goes out there. He gets a first-round knockout. That's all well and good. He hadn't used that striking in a long time, so maybe it's like, oh, shit, forgot he could strike. Yeah, decent striking, but decent striking in pockets, and he's always been like that. He's a badass striker for a minute, 2 minutes of the round, but then he makes one tactical mistake, gets hit in return, and just doesn't deal well with counters, doesn't deal good with his opponent pressuring him, doesn't deal good with, even a couple slight punches. All of a sudden, he starts to move a little bit slower. His face doesn't wear damage very well. He busts up, he bruises easily, and just his body language starts to go. The Roerick fight ends so quick. Again, it's a perception thing, and that perception actually ends up costing me personally. He comes in as a minus 350 favorite over Chris Camozzi, and then proves to be the Cesar Mutanche that we kind of all knew that he was. In the first round, he looked really good. Well, he got the takedown. He did what he needed to do. And then he just completely gasses out. Like, if he gets a submission, sure. But if he doesn't get the submission, he's going to need takedowns in the second and the third round. And he's just so heavily built, heavily muscular. He's fighting at 205 pounds now. It's not like he's got love handles. He's just got 2 more rows of abs. Guy's like comically built, man. He looks like a G.I. Joe action figure. Unfortunately, the G.I. Joe action figure could go 10 rounds. Cesar Mutanche just won. So I think that's going to be his problem here, is that his best round is usually the first, and that's Hamlet's best round. So, yeah, he's got a striking advantage over Hamlet, but I just don't think that Martin's going to fight a stupid game plan and strike with him on the outside. Like, it just seems boneheaded. And even if he was to do that, I could see Ferreira just lighting him up for 2 minutes and then getting clubbed by an overhand right and just folding to the canvas. So, it's not a great long-term game. His best plan is go out there, get an early takedown of your own, create a scramble, take his back, try to fish up a submission. But taking Martin down, again, is going to be a massive issue. Don't really see it happening. And the flip side to that was you could tire him out, let him take you down. Same thing as Hendricks, just stay in the fight long enough to snag something up. But he showed in the Chris Camozzi fight, beyond the first round, it was a 10-8 second round. They could have stopped it. He got completely mauled. And then the third, he had nothing going. He attempted a few takedowns on Camozzi, and they didn't even come anywhere close. So is that guy going to pull the buzzer beater out over Hamlet Nielsen? I really don't think so. I got to go with the fighter from Norway, 100%. And again, the line is pretty fair, to be honest with you, at -160. But it's PFL. It's always greasy. Cesar Ferreira is typically a greasy guy. And the other guy just greased one up with 2 minutes left on the fucking clock. Blows a third-round submission. So it could be a greasier fight than we'd like. But at -160, I actually really like that. Moving on, I think we got 3 fights left. We got Emiliano Sordi versus Antonio Carlos Jr. Current line is Carlos Jr. is a -170 favorite. Comeback on Emiliano Sordi +150. Seems like Carlos Jr. is everybody's darling this week. Don't disagree with it. Fight got announced, and I really like Antonio Carlos Jr. And to be honest, I like Carlos Jr. coming into this tournament right off the hop because, yes, he's coming off bad losses in the UFC and was released from the promotion. Doesn't look like he's in great form. But I've always said this guy's way too big to fight at 185 pounds. Like, he's got the massive reach on him. 79-inch reach, 6'2" frame. Huge guy, built. How does he even make 185? It makes no sense to me. And I don't know if it was bad weight cuts, but yeah, he'd go in there sometimes and look really good. Sometimes look really bad. His BJJ, very high level. He's competed and had a lot of success in just straight up grappling tournaments. But again, as far as MMA goes, we know that he's got a high level BJJ black belt and he can utilize it very well in mixed martial arts. His striking has always been a problem because it's not very advanced. And for a guy with a 79-inch reach, it could be so much better. It just never really caught up. But he's been full-time on American Top Team the last couple of years now. You do see improvements coming to his game. But beyond that, he's using that big long jab. Keep them at bay, When eventually they say, you know what, I gotta break that distance, close the barrier between me and him. I gotta fight my way through the jab. When they get a little bit over reckless and they come through the jab, that's when you get the takedown. That's when you close up. That's when you clinch up. He's fighting better game plan and something better suited to his style. When I heard he was going to PFL to fight at 205 pounds, very intriguing to me because the PFL roster is not super deep. And Carlos Jr. got cut from the UFC, but probably because they didn't want to pay him. Because, his losses in the UFC, Brad Tavares, Uriah Hall, they're still good guys. You could have just let him fight lower echelon dudes and he could still beat them. Against an elite level, he proved not to be worth it, and so they decided to part ways. In the PFL terms, what is he going to fight? Cesar Ferreira and Nick Roerick? Some of the guys on there, Chris Camozzi? Seems like this is a much better fit for him. And he draws Tom Lawler in the first round. And so my theory's put to the test, and he just buzzsaws right through. He's too big, right? He's too technical. As soon as he gets the fight to the ground, he clinches up. He gets the fight to the ground. He gets into an advantageous position, and he chokes him unconscious. Beautiful little guillotine. Tom goes out, tough to see, right? But it's like that's what he's capable of when he's at his best. And at 205, I just got a feeling that he's going to be feeling a lot better. So now he draws Vinny Magalhaes. I'm all over him. He's a -270 favorite, so a lot of people are on the same boat. But Vinny's a submission guy. Vinny ain't going to submit him. Vinny's striking's not good enough to strike for 15 minutes. And I like the improvements out of Carlos Jr. And to be honest, it's kind of a bullshit fight. He's definitely going to win. And I can't say he looked great, but it only lasted 2 minutes and 45 seconds, so I can't hold it against him. He took no damage. He was in no bad spots for the most part. And then a groin strike. Vinny got hit with the groin strike, knew he was going to lose. And was just like, better than getting knocked out, right? So took off. Or I don't know. Maybe he would have got knocked out, but he certainly was going to lose. So Vinny decides the groin strike was enough for him and taps out and bails. So in Carlos Jr., it's a no contest. It's not a win, but he had the points from Tom Lawler, so he's able to move on to the playoffs. And again, took absolutely zero damage between those two fights. Has now made 205 pounds 3 times, filling out for the division. And again, at American Top Team, you're training with some of the best guys in the world, so you should be prepared for whatever comes your way. And Sordi represents a lower level than some of the guys he trains with, right? Or some of the guys he's fought in the UFC. Now, Sordi had a complete career resurgence because he was a jobber in Bellator fighting at 185 pounds and not looking good. Quit on a stool against AJ Matthews after 1 round. He got submitted 3 minutes into the first round against Frenchman Gregory Babini. He got submitted in 26 seconds on the Contender Series by Ryan Spann. He got knocked out a minute 43 seconds into the first round by Bazagi Atayev in his second PFL fight. It's like this guy's not very good. He's chinny. He's got bad submission defense. and he's just not all that good. But he finds a second life up at 205 pounds. So he moves up to 205, and once you know it, he beats Vinny Magalesh at the end of his career. He beats Bazigi Atayev, who just to make sure, I believe he was 41, but nah, he's 40 years old in 4 months. So he beats, and it's a rematch, and it's a good win. Don't get me wrong, but it's like, okay, so you've effectively, this is his road to $1 million here, right? You've gone from jobber to a win over Vinny, who shot, a win over a 40-year-old Atayev, a win over Sigi Pacelli. What? Dude was 3-2 from New Zealand, kickboxer, and done nothing. Holy shit, man, who's booking you these fights? Then he gets another fight against Bazigi. Shit. 4-year-old Bazigi, get to fight him again. He's a couple months even older now. Beats him. He gets Jordan Johnson. That's a solid victory for him. That's the $1 million fight right there. He wins it. He wins the $1 million. He knocked out Johnson. It's a credible win. I'm not going to take it away from him. And it's like Sordi's for real, man. He's giant at 205. Like, he's put on a lot of muscle. His frame doesn't look like he's, it looks like he's going to get out grappled by some of these bigger grindier type guys. But the thing with 205 is there's not a whole lot of them. Watch what happens if Martha Nielsen gets matched up with Emiliano Sordi. He'd be able to take him down and control him, I do believe. But again, this guy's a scrapper, and he's got heavy hands and heavy power in his hands. So he wins $1 million. They now take off 2020 because of the pandemic. They come back in 2021. He's the odds-on favorite to probably repeat. He's on a career best roll against limited level competition. But hey, they give him Chris Camozzi in the first round. He didn't look good. He looked good in the first round. He faded. He got tired. He got hit 100 significant strikes against Chris Camozzi and took a lot of damage. Does win the fight, but took a lot of damage. Now he gets Dan Spawn. The first round, he looked awesome against Dan Spawn. Actually, could have got a 10-8 round in that first. Beats the crap out of him, but lands a series of back-of-the-head shots. Now, the referee probably should have warned him before taking away the point. At the very least, he could have warned him as he was hitting him or about to hit him. But instead, as soon as he lands a series of them, he just immediately stops the action, takes the point away. So Sordi wins the round. But the judges don't end up giving it a 10-8. They scored a 10-9, and because he loses a point, it's a 9-9. Furthermore, the second round, he goes out there, he wins, but it's a shit show, man. Dan Spawn's landing on this guy at will, and Sordi's supposed to have this legendary power, but couldn't put down Chris Camozzi, and now against Dan Spawn, not known to have great durability, he can't put him down either. And it's a gunslinger second round. He does win based on damage, I would suppose, but he's getting hit too. He's getting hit a lot. And coming off the Camozzi fight just 2 months earlier, you can't keep taking this much damage. So he takes a bit of damage in that second round. Now the third round against Dan Spawn, he loses the third round against Dan Spawn. Doesn't look good at all. He's gassed. And it's a bad look. Takes a lot of damage, but wouldn't you know it, they scored a draw. They did score him the first 2 rounds. Sorry, they scored him 2 rounds. It was a 29-28, but point deduction. So, unfortunately, Sordi has to settle for a draw. But Dan Spawn, again, represented one of the lower-level guys in this tournament, and he took a lot of damage. And then Chris Camozzi, I think Camozzi's on a roll and is a decent opponent, so that one you give him more of a pass for, but a lot of damage. And so now it's a tournament, baby. This is his third fight in 6 months. Did you come by right back in the gym? Were you sparring in the gym? Were guys still hitting you? I don't know, man. Carlos Jr. took no damage. He choked out Tom Lawler unconscious without ever getting hit, and then a no contest with Vinny without ever getting hit. And this guy just been through the ringer twice and looked like shit both times. So he does have a striking advantage. If he can keep this fight standing, he's going to have success with Carlos Jr. But I just feel like Carlos Jr. will be, even though they're both former middleweights, Jr. has filled out the frame better. He's going to be the bigger guy. He'll be able to use the jab a little bit to eventually set up this body lock takedown. Once he gets the fight to the ground, he's got the better grappling. So got to go with Carlos Jr. Again, like I said, everyone seems to be on him this week. The line's not super huge by no means, but I'm gonna bank that sentiment. You got to look at who's been looking good in recent form and who's been looking bad. Now, when you say Cody, what do you mean looking good in recent form? The fight with Vinny only lasted 2.5 minutes. It was a no contest. Didn't really look good there, did he? And the fight with Tom Lawler, it's Tom Lawler. He's a 38-year-old pro wrestler, so don't put too much stock into him. For that reason, it's do we put Carlos Jr. as a top ticket? Maybe not. But shit, I'm buying into the narrative. He's going to have to be somewhat high up there, I believe. And on a greasy PFL card, we're going to have to take some shots in some spots. So yeah, he's the official play. We'll wrap it up at the end of the show and go through it all again. But anyways, co-main event, Chris Wade taking on Bubba Jenkins. Bubba Jenkins is the current favorite at -190, as high as 200. Chris Wade come back +155, as high as +170. Yeah, Chris Wade will be live in the sense that he matches up decent against Bubba Jenkins. Jenkins is going to try to just go out there and wrestle him and grind him for 2 of the 3 rounds, probably run away for the third round. ultimately sealing at 29-28. And that's probably how I do see it going. But at least Chris Wade's able to adapt to deal with that because he did wrestle collegiately. And, he's wrestled the likes of Loix Radzbanov, Nathan Schultz, judo black belt twice, Islam Makhachev, current UFC absolute terrorizer, Rustam Khaybulaev, ex-UFC terrorizer, Ozzy Dugulubagov, I pronounce that wrong, Dugulubagov, who's actually an American Russian, like he's actually based out of New Jersey, but all the same, it's like Chris Wade has wrestled some great guys. He knows how to wrestle. He can wrestle. The problem is all those guys I mentioned beat him largely on the basis of they're better wrestlers. That's going to be the issue. You can take Chris Wade down. You can grind him. Bubba Jenkins is going to look to do exactly that. Wade's first fight of the PFL tournament for 2021 was against Anthony Dizy, who we already talked about. He looked like shit, man. He was getting taken down at will in the first round and grinded. In the second round, it was very close, and he was getting grinded. And Bubba's going to do the same thing. In the third round, Wade eventually finds a way to win the round, and ultimately it does what seals him the deal to win the fight. But he's not a big finisher. Now against Arman Osmanov, he'd prove that theory wrong because he knocked out Arman Osmanov in spectacular fashion. But he himself got stiffened up hard in that first round. Like, he was getting beat up by Arman Osmanov and eventually is able to catch him when Arman started to get tired. But he's going to need to do the same thing with Jenkins. One thing about Chris Wade is that you can't finish this guy. I haven't seen it. I haven't seen anybody really come all that close. The guy has got some legendary durability. I mean, Razmanov decision, Schultz split, Schultz decision, Makhachev decision, Khaybulaev decision, Ozzy decision. He's never been finished. The fight with Islam Makhachev, he hit him with a flying, it was like a flying head kick, right? The dude's crafty, the dude's experienced, and the dude never goes away. He's going to fight for 15 minutes. This fight is going to go to decision. If you're taking Bubba Jenkins, you're taking Bubba Jenkins by decision. So we know that for sure. With Jenkins, meanwhile, he's going to be susceptible to a guy that is durable because he doesn't have very good cardio. That last fight with Bobby Moffett, he controlled the first round, no problem. The second round, he was not looking as good, but he got the takedowns when he wanted them and won the round. The third round, he's completely exhausted, and he's getting hit. He's getting hit. He's getting tagged. He's not liking it. He's able to survive the round. Thank God it's not a 10-8 round. And so he wins a 29-28. But in a 5-round fight, especially that fight, Bubba Jenkins is toast, man. I don't know if he overexerts himself wrestling. If it comes against an opponent that can't wrestle, sure. But against a guy that's going to wrestle back, prove resistance, get back up to his feet, it's going to cause you to work. The more you work, it becomes an issue. In Jenkins' case, it's like he's not a great striker. He can strike in the sense of like a big two-piece combination into a takedown, but at range, keeping this guy at bay, jabbing his face off, he don't like it. He don't respond well to it. And his body language starts to just show fatigue. Then he shoots the wrestling. Then he shoots the takedowns. Then he tries to grind this thing down to a slower pace that he's more comfortable with. And it's up to Wade to just stuff a few of these takedowns and keep it in the open field. If he does that, he's going to have a striking advantage. He could catch him with something. He's also got a decent guillotine choke. Jenkins tends to leave his neck in. I can see Wade making it happen, but more realistically, it's going to look like the Lance Palmer fight or the Bobby Moffett fight. He's going to out-wrestle him for at least the first 2 rounds, and then you're fighting on a come-from-behind third round, and it's just too little too late. You're not able to capitalize. Also, Jenkins been speaking in tongue, and I mean, he's like just so faithful in his Lord and Savior that it's like, he motivated, man. He motivated to prove something. When Chris Wade, so glad I waited to watch the weigh-ins, but when he's looking up at God, like I don't know, he's speaking in tongue to him, and Chris Wade's like, he's not gonna save you. He's not gonna save you. It's like, oh, it just triggered something in Bubba Jenkins. Bubba Jenkins crazy. Bubba Jenkins crazy, and all he needs to do is wrestle for 2 rounds. So that is going to be the key. Again, Bubba Jenkins is minus 180, but if you take Bubba Jenkins by decision, because there's no way in hell. It should honestly be the exact same price. It's not. It's only minus 120. Bubba Jenkins is minus 180. Jenkins by decision minus 120. And that's the path, man. Is he knocking out Chris Wade? Highly doubt it. Is he submitting Chris Wade? Highly doubt it. So he's going to have to wrestle for 2 of those 3 rounds. And I do see that as a path to victory. But again, if you're looking for an underdog with a chance, or if for whatever reason you get a live bet PFL, Jenkins starts to look a little bit tired in that third, maybe you go with Chris Wade. Traditionally, historically, not a huge finisher, but that was a hell of a head kick in his last fight over Osmanov. And it was a great head kick over Makhachev. So he's always live in that domain. And then finally, we got Movlev Khaybulaev versus Brendan Loughnane. Movlev Khaybulaev is the favorite, coming in at minus 155. Comeback on Brendan Loughnane about plus 125. I think I'm going to go with the underdog here in Brendan Loughnane. And this could look awful. This could be embarrassing. This could be like, why would you go against the Russian grappler? Khaybulaev could make it look quite easy. I just got a feeling he's actually not. Like, he's a good wrestler. He's one of these typical Russian grindy type wrestlers. Is strikingly something to be desired. He does love throwing the flying knee, and he has caught a couple guys with a spectacular flying knee. But what you'll see a lot of the times with like these Russian grinder guys is they don't fight fundamentally sound with their boxing. They're not throwing like, 1-2 combinations. They're not looking to set up traps. They're not looking to set up their footwork. It's like they'll explode with one big technique. And if it lands, it lands. And if it doesn't, it closes all of the space. So now that they can just engage you immediately with the rest. Like, it'd be like throwing a Superman punch. Like, why would you throw a Superman punch? I'm looking to hit the guy quick before entering the pocket. So a flying knee is kind of the same thing. You run at the guy, you launch a flying knee. If it hits him, great. If it doesn't, you land right in front of him. You've made contact with him. There's no more distance. And then you get the takedown. So Khaybulaev's a little bit wild and reckless with his takedowns, but it's all about just closing the distance, getting a hold of his opponent, taking him down, and grinding him. He shows a perfect 17-0 record. That's obviously ultra impressive. The one asterisk there is the fight with Daniel Pineda, where he got knocked out. He got knocked out big time. He got kicked with one leg kick. It buckled him. He got caught with a nasty hook, sends him to the ground, finishes him. It just turns out that Pineda was on the juice. So, yeah, total pass, man. You fought a guy that was on the juice. On the other hand, it was like, you did get knocked out. It was a fight. This organization happened to be drug testing. The majority of the organizations that you fought for did not drug test. So what was the difference, right? You can beat this guy. You can knock him out. So as far as his grappling goes, it's like, how good is it? While he's coming off a solid win over Lance Palmer his last time out, you were able to grapple a guy that wrestled at Ohio State, has made a name for himself as a strong wrestler. That's all good stuff. But Palmer's looked stiff this tournament. He hasn't really looked like himself. He's getting a little bit older. His prior fight with Lazar, he gets the takedowns at will, but Lazar shows almost no ability to stuff the takedowns. He provides no resistance whatsoever. Like, yeah, okay, you beat those guys. Brendan Loughnane's going to make him work. Brendan Loughnane's super durable, but he's a big high output kind of guy. The one thing that I'm having trouble with is takedown defense, right? Loughnane's fought a large majority of these guys that they're not going to take him down. He's on a great run right now, right? But that run is Pasta Texpelia, Amari Jr., Bill Algeo, UFC fame, Matt Waggy, David Vellante, Shayman Moraes, Tyler Diamond's last time out. Tyler Diamond is a guy that's a wrestler, solid wrestling, team alpha male guy, can wrestle. And I mean, it shows majority decision, but he absolutely killed him pillar to post. Like, he almost knocked him out in the second round. Probably got a 10-8 round out of it. The only reason it's a majority, one judge somehow gave 2 rounds to Tyler Diamond, but did acknowledge it's a 10-8 second round out of Loughnane. The other judges got it right and gave it to Loughnane, but he really did beat him up bad. I mean, he tired him out. He stuffs the takedowns, and he's a guy that never takes his foot off the gas. He keeps fighting. He keeps going at you. He comes into this fight in excellent shape, and I do completely agree that Moffett's going to have a significant wrestling advantage on him. Probably will get these takedowns, but Loughane's been working a lot on the takedown defense. He's got a tall, long, lanky frame, and if he can use that, usually it does not work against Russian grapplers. But if you can use that length for leverage, keep on your feet, create space, get back, use that jab to keep him at range. And when he flies in with these explosive techniques, Loughane's a good enough counterpuncher that he should be able to intercept him and hurt him with something. Even if he loses the first round, you need to fight your ass off in the second. And in the third, there will be opportunities created. But this is going to be low level on the priority list, low level on the parlays, because it's 100% a very high level main event, very, I think, tightly matched. Moffett could make me look like an idiot in that statement and just take him down and ground him and be a walk in the park. But I don't necessarily going that route. So I think that Loughnane, more often than not, I'm hoping more often than not, is just able to be outlanding him. Last but not least, even if Moffett takes him down, he's not huge on the ground and pound, he's not huge on these submission attempts, then Loughnane could just be active off his back and potentially persuade a judge if need be. But the fact that one of them scored it for Tyler Diamond, they might not like Brendan Loughnane. The fact that Dana didn't give him a contract in Contender Series, a show, it's basically like the Oprah Winfrey show. Everybody gets a contract. The fact that he got snubbed on that after a killer performance, like, people apparently don't really like Brendan Loughnane or his style. So hopefully that doesn't cost him here. But you know what? It's a dog or pass type play for me. So I'm going to go with the underdog. As far as the plays in terms of a parlay, I think you go with Martha Hamlin. It's going to be parlay material. I think you go with Anthony Dizy as parlay material. You're probably going to go ahead with Alejandro Flores at that minus 350 price tag as parlay material. And then after that, we have to take a little more risks. We go with Antonio Carlos Jr. We go with Bubba Jenkins. We're going to go with I'm going to go with Chris Camozzi, but again, that's low-level priority stuff. Bobby Moffett, like, unfortunately, to Jason Knight. The weight miss, could go either way. But how many times do you think I miss, weigh, and lose? Like, I don't have the official number in front of me, but it's like 70% of the time they're coming through and getting the victory. So that's what I'd like to say plays out here. And then anyways, just in case I've been confusing for you, I will quickly wrap it up. We are going with underdog in the main event, sadly. We're going to go with Brendan Loughnane, the +120 underdog. We're going to go with Bubba Jenkins by decision. He's the favorite. We're going to go with Antonio Carlos Jr. by decision. We're going to go with Martin Nielsen by decision. We're going to go with Lazar Stojadinovic, underdog. And I'm also going to take that under 2.5. And, I'll chase that +500 Lazar. Why not? I'm going to go with Chris Camozzi by decision. Anthony Dizy by decision. Bobby Moffett by decision. Alejandro Flores by decision, Jacob Kilburn by decision. Now, obviously, you think, is every single fight going to go to decision, Cody? No, you're right. Probably not. I do love my decision props. But yeah, this is a big cage. It's not the apex. None of these guys are not particularly the most highest level, but they're matched up pretty well. And a lot of them show durability. Kilburn's durable. Jenkins durable. Flores has been finished 3 times, high-level guys. Deaton's durable enough. Jason Knight's durable. Bobby Moffett's super durable. Dizy's durable. Jesse Stirn's durable. Chris Camozzi and Corey Hendricks are both durable. Scheiman and Lazar are not durable. That's why we're taking the under on that one. Cesar Ferreira is not durable. Martin could knock him out, but he's just not really a striker. He's more of a submission guy, and I don't think he's going to submit him. Sordi's a banger. You never know what's going to happen there. But Carlos Jr. is super durable. Chris Wade's the most durable. Bubba Jenkins, but if he's the winner, it's not going to matter. And then, Loughnane and Khaybulaev. So, yeah, it's not just like there's a bunch of fragile cans on this card. It's actually pretty well matched. Pretty durable guys for the most part. So I think a lot of these decision props are going to hit. I think a lot of these overs are going to hit. And hopefully we can get the right combination for the parlay. So, yeah, I'm going to shoot the show out. And then I'm going to throw out some tweets. And then, let's put the right combinations together. Thank you for joining. If you hit me up on Twitter, if you hit me up on my DMs, or a couple people hit me up on Facebook, actually, wanting the show. Yeah, you guys are the reason I do the show. For me, it doesn't matter. I just bet it on my own time. 1,000 views on YouTube. What good does that do me? But you guys like it. And I like giving free content to fans. And showing the love, and you guys give me so much love and respect and support that anything I can do to reciprocate it, all for it. So hope you enjoy. Hope we can make some money here, and enjoy the fights, guys.